What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing some double bug and fighting type action in the Jungle Cup with Heracross and Buzzwole, plus Shadow Luxray in the lead to cover for that glaring double weakness to flying. Now of course Heracross does have coverage for flying types with Rock Blast, so I used it as a safe swap to bait out any potential flying types and then hopefully clear the path for Buzzwole to sweep in the end game. There are definitely a few core breakers to this team, including Clodsire and Palosand, but generally the team works very well and I had a lot of fun running it. So with that being said, let's just get into the question of the day. What do you think is the most annoying Pokemon to face in the early Jungle Cup meta? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Alright, so heading into the first battle, we're going to lead Shadow Luxray into Zangoose, a fairly neutral lead, but I'm going to safe swap into my Heracross as we do have two better responses, and the plan is working perfectly as we bait out a Talonflame. Now if the opponent doesn't respect damage here, Rock Blast would be one-shotting them. Unfortunately they do shield, but I'm able to make it to a second Rock Blast. Heracross putting in work, grabbing both shields from a Talonflame, but unfortunately they do come out with a ton of energy, and unlike Lantern, which would be a very hard counter to the Talonflame, unfortunately Luxray not going to be resisting the fire damage here, so I'm actually going to have to double shield. But what I do really like about Luxray, and this is the first time I've used it since Spark did get changed to deal more damage, is it's very easy to farm down flying type Pokemon like we just did there. We come out with a Wild Charge loaded, they come in with a Ferrothorn, so I swap into my Buzzwole, and this is going to be game over. The opponent full sends a close combat there, everything they could possibly throw is resisted by the Buzzwole, and now we come out with a Superpower loaded. Superpower easily one-shots the Ferrothorn, and we're able to take that game. So GG's to the opponent there. Into next game we see Ferrothorn in the lead this time around. So once again, safe swapping into the Heracross, and once again baiting out a Talonflame. So here I'm going to overfarm, go for the Rock Blast, and can we land it this time around? Yes we can! We one-shot the Talonflame, which is huge. The opponent comes back in with the Ferrothorn, and I'm able to make it to the close combat on the CMP tie. And the opponent doesn't believe in shields apparently, as they no-shield twice, and twice Heracross nukes the opponent, and now they come in with a Lantern. At this point I'm going to no-shield. Honestly, I kind of just zoned out at this point. We're going to go for a Psychic Fangs here, and then I will be swapping into my Buzzwole, and this should be game over. The opponent finally used their shield, but it's too little too late, as Psychic Fangs wouldn't do much damage. We've put them into range where we can just go for a full counter farm down. Again, I know shield, not really paying attention to the battle, and we're able to take that game. So GG's to the opponent there into next game, and the hardest core breaker for this team, Palosand, is going to resist literally everything apart from Psychic Fangs from my Shadow Luxray from my entire team, which is really bad for me. They go for Scorching Sands and they get a debuff to our attack, which is annoying. Of course we know shield, which is a good call, but then they're going to come in with a second sand attack user in the form of Shadow Hippowdon, and unfortunately because of the debuff to our attack, close combat barely doesn't take them out there. Honestly, we did have quite a lot of energy, but it doesn't really matter. It's not going to do much up against that Palosand, so we come in with the Shadow Luxray, go for the resisted Spark farm down, and I am able to make it to a Psychic Fangs. Now Psychic Fangs is neutral, they actually shield that up there, and it's a CMP tie, so at this point I figured there's probably no point in shielding this. We're going to let it go down with a debuff to their defense. Hopefully we can take them out with a lunge, although I will have to overfarm here. The opponent is once again going to fire off a charge move, once again going for Scorching Sands, and once again getting the debuff to our attack, and unfortunately that's going to be huge in this matchup because now two lunges will not be enough damage to take out the Whimsicott, and yes, we are debuffing their attack with these lunges, but they will still make it to a Moonblast. We're going to have to use our final shield here, but I will be able to go for a counter farm down. Now Moonblast coming through is also going to debuff my attack. Super unfortunate. If the game wasn't already over, it certainly is now. Even if the opponent lets this lunge go through, it's not going to do nearly enough damage to take out the Palosand, and they're still able to make it to another charge move before we make it to lunge number 2. Once again going for these Scorching Sands there, and I'm sure if we didn't feign, that probably would have debuffed our attack again, but unfortunately we do lose that game. But GG's to the opponent there into next game, great lead, but then the opponent swaps into Altaria, and whilst yes, Heracross does have some coverage in Rock Blast, it's not ideal to see, so we're going to stay in, we go for the bait. Each time we are going for a Wild Charge, at least farming up to the Wild Charge before baiting, and the opponent calls the bait both times, which is super unfortunate. At this point, I will be shielding my Heracross here, and we are able to get the counter farm down. Now the opponent comes in with a third flying type Pokemon. What on earth is this team? We're going for the Rock Blast, we need this to connect, and it does! I don't know why the opponent no-shielded that, and then they commit to a full Incinerate farm down. down, which allows me to not only get the farm down, but also make it to a Rock Blast up against the Skarmory. But still, this is going to be tricky. The Skarmory does have quite a lot of energy already. Honestly, I haven't been keeping track, so it's going to be very difficult. We need to make a catch here, and I am able to make a catch. Honestly, I have to say, this was pure luck, just vibes, but we're able to make the catch. And at this point, it doesn't matter if the opponents have back-to-back Sky attacks, as the counter damage will register. It will be taking out the Skarmory, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to the opponent there. Into next game, we see Shadow Luxray into Vigoroth, and I will be honest, I actually didn't see many Vigoroth today. I think I did like 7 sets with this team, only saw maybe like 10 at most, maybe even less than that, which is very surprising since typically any cup with Vigoroth is the Vigoroth Cup. But here we're going to go for the close combat, throwing on the CMB tie. We are actually going to shield this up here, and because I've debuffed my defense, they will be able to go for a full Steel Wing farm down. So I am definitely expecting the opponent to try and maintain alignment here, but they actually no shield that. That's actually a bit surprising here, but let's see what the opponent wants to do. They're now going to come in with a Clodsire. We will just barely make it to a close combat, but honestly, we're not in the best position here. We're going to go for the close combat. You can see that is resisted damage. It really does not do much. And unfortunately, once again, like the Palossand here, only Psychic Fangs is going to hit for anything other than resisted damage. I'm going to call a bait here. The opponent full sends the Earthquake, and this is basically game over. It doesn't matter that they had a Vigoroth in the lead. We really can't do much damage. We do call that a Sludge Bomb there, not a Stone Edge. I don't know if that actually does more or less damage, honestly, because Sludge Bomb, of course, is going to be same type attack bonus. But here, I should have thrown the Superpower before they make it to a charge move. This is definitely a mistake. Of course, we will be resisting the Mud Shots here. We are resisting counter as well, but it's still adding up. We have to go for the lunge here. We don't want to debuff our attack. And now I have a Superpower loaded, but it is resisted damage. It does a lot of damage, but not up against a Clodsire. And unfortunately, we're going to be going down to whatever charge move they throw. They go for the Sludge Bomb, takes out the Buzzwole, and unfortunately we do lose that game. But GG's to the opponent there. Into the next game, we see Greninja in the lead, so a great lead, and honestly, our entire team does super well up against Greninja. But again, another core breaker for the team in the form of Trevenant. This isn't so bad here, just because they're not dealing super effective damage with their fast moves, and at least Lunge and Rock Blast are going to be neutral. So eventually, I probably will swap out of this matchup. We swap into the Heracross. Honestly, I was expecting them to get off a Seed Bomb, but they didn't even throw there, so I don't know if my counts were just off there or if they just didn't throw for whatever reason. But either way, they come in with Altaria, which is sort of good news for us because, of course, we don't want it aligned to our Buzzwole. But here I'm figuring we probably can't shield that because if the opponent wants to double shield, they can and then just come out with a Sky Attack loaded to throw into the Buzzwole. So instead, we come in with the Shadow Luxray. We need this to land, and it does land. It does huge damage. They do get the Dragon Breath farm down, but I'm able to counter, farm them down before they make it to a Sky Attack. And at this point, this is going to be game over. We go for the lunge here, just playing it safe. Honestly, I can just go for a full counter farm down, but I'm going to debuff their attack anyways, just in case somehow they do make it to a Night Slash and then go and boost their attack and then land a Hydro Cannon, but they're not able to get there. We're able to counter, farm them down, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to the opponent there. Into next game, we see a Charizard in the lead, and the opponent safe swaps into Gliscor. Now, another core breaker for the team. We're forced to stay in. At least Psychic Fangs is going to be neutral damage. I'm not really sure why they shield the first charge move here. We are going to see a Sand Tomb coming through, which isn't really ideal for us, but we're going to go for another Psychic Fangs. Psychic Fangs is going to be no shielded, so at this point, I'm going to swap, make the catch onto my Heracross. A bit questionable here, as Sand Tomb is now going to mean that these wing attacks are dealing huge damage, but we do barely live it, and the opponent is actually running Air Slash on the Charizard. One Air Slash nearly takes us out, but a Rock Blast actually does take out the Charizard there. And once again, Greninja in the back. This is going to be very easy for us. I can just no-shield this. Doesn't even matter if they're back-to-back charge moves. Night Slash takes us out, but one counter gets rid of the Greninja, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to the opponent there. Into next game, we see Trevenant in the lead, and honestly, I probably should just go for that Psychic Fangs immediately, but of course I'm going to bait like I've got Crunch here, which of course might grab a shield, it might not, but we're going for the Psychic Fangs, and the opponent is going to respect the damage. At this point, I will just go for the Psychic Fangs, throw on the potential CMB tie with another Seed Bomb, but at this point, the opponent can just go for a full Shadow Claw farm down, so I'm forced to swap out, not give them any extra energy. They go for a Seed Bomb bait, which is a huge call for me, but then they come in with Altaria, and that chip damage might mean that I only make it to one Rock Blast. We go for the first one. You can see Rock Blast isn't the best move, and unfortunately we do just barely not make it to the second Rock Blast there. We don't have a charge move on our Luxray either, so we have to come in with the Buzzwole. Of course, Sky Attack, gonna be double super effective. We have to shield this. Now I'm thinking if we can make a catch, we might still be in this, and we do make the catch, catching onto the Shadow Luxray. This will be a Sky Attack, taking out the Luxray, but I didn't even realize this, but Buzzwole is just so low. We basically need something like an Obstagoon in the back. We're gonna go and fire off the lunge straight away into the Trevenant, taking out the Trevenant, and unfortunately it's a Lantern in the back. So Superpower, gonna deal some decent damage, but not even half their health. They can just go for the Spark Farm down, and unfortunately we do lose that game. But GG's to the opponent there. Into the next game, gonna say swap into a Heracross as we see an Umbreon, and the opponent responds with a Wigglytuff, which is unfortunate, but close combat gonna be dealing big damage in this matchup. So the opponent will respect that. They use their shield, and honestly, this is where having Spark dealing more damage is very nice. Of course, we would make it to the charge moves just slightly faster with the previous Spark, but this damage is just very nice up against something like a Wigglytuff, where we also can't really take the hits from the Charm, but if we can just fast move, farm them down, that will be very nice. So shielding up, they go for Disarming Voice, not Icy Wind, and that allows me to get the farm down. I'm gonna bank the Wild Charge before swapping into my Buzzwole, and hopefully this isn't a Psychic. The opponent is just gonna go for a Foul Play bait there, and then they come in with Skarmory, so I'm gonna farm 2 back-to-back charge moves before I throw, and I'm obviously gonna have to shield this up here, but the opponent's gonna go for a Brave Bird, which is so unnecessary, which means 1 Superpower will very easily be enough damage to take out the Skarmory, and then I can go for another Superpower up against the Umbreon. It doesn't matter that we're debuffed now, and it doesn't quite take them out there, as we do have a full Wild Charge loaded on my Shadow Luxray. Foul Play takes us out. We can go straight for the Wild Charge, and of course this is massive overkill, but it will be taking out the Umbreon, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to the opponent there. Into the next battle, we're going to see Shadow Luxray into Steelix, so awful lead, but we're going to be safe swapping into the Heracross, and of course the opponent is going to be staying in here, probably just going to go straight for a Psychic Fangs, so I'm not going to shield. I do expect the opponent to swap out eventually, and then they come in with a Skarmory, so we're going to farm up here, throw at the last possible second. Unfortunately barely don't make it to back-to-back close combats, but the first one goes unshielded, and that is a smart play from the opponent there, recognizing they can live anything we can possibly throw. And now we're going to come in with the Shadow Luxray, and likewise, I'm also going to let this move go through. Brave Bird does huge damage in this matchup, and then they come in with Clodsire, and this, honestly, is probably slightly better for me that they come in with the Clodsire here, because we can debuff their defense. They're probably also not going to want to swap into their Steelix, so at this point, I'm definitely going to shield the first charge move here, as I will now be able to get off a lunge, and these counters, whilst they are resisted, because we've debuffed their defense, they're actually chunking a fair bit, so we're going to go for that lunge. We'll be grabbing a shield from the Clodsire, and honestly, I think I'm going to double shield here. We are going to double shield. They go for the Stone Edge. We're always going to overfarm though, making sure the opponent can't swap out and outpace us to a charge move on their Steelix. They let the lunge go through, and unfortunately they barely make it to another charge move. We needed to get that KO, and unfortunately now they will be able to come in with the Steelix. We're going to go for the lunge here, and they are 1 away from the next charge move, so of course I will be trying to make the catch, but it was quite an obvious attempt there. So the opponent holds onto the energy. Really nice play from the opponent, and they're able to go for a Psychic Fangs, taking out the Buzzwole, and unfortunately we do lose that game. But GG's to the opponent there. If I threw that lunge 1 fast move later, then actually that would have been on the CMP tie, and it would have taken them out, as we would have got the extra counter through. So yeah, definitely could have played that slightly better, but well played by the opponent. Into the next game, we see Altaria in the lead. Now I'm going to shield this up. We have baited with the Psychic Fangs, grabbing a shield, and now we are going to full send the Wild Charge here. Wild Charge will be taking out the Altaria. We're going to swap immediately into Heracross. They've got Obstagoon, and they've got Venusaur in the back, so things are looking good for us. I can just safely no shield this charge move here. Unfortunately, Rock Blast isn't going to do an awful lot of damage up against Venusaur, but I will build up to the back-to-back charge moves, going for the Rock Blast, and despite being resisted, Close Combat is still going to do much more damage in this matchup, so we will be firing it off, and Close Combat nearly takes out the Venusaur. I think the safe play is just to come in with the Luxray, force the opponent to throw some of their energy. They're going to go for the Frenzy Plant, taking out the Luxray. We can now come in, counter farm them down with the Buzzwole, and the opponent is just going to concede the match there. So GG's to the opponent there. Into next game we see Shadow Luxray into Galvantula. So we are going to stay in this matchup, at least initially, go straight for the Psychic Fangs throwing before they can debuff my attack with a lunge. And Psychic Fangs is going to be no shielded. It does some decent damage there. They over farm, so I'm going to swap and make the catch onto my Heracross, expecting it to be a lunge, which is resisted by the fighting typing. And now they come in with a Bomber Snow. Now we are debuffed here. I don't think there's really any point in shielding. Hopefully we can survive, but no, unfortunately barely not able to do so. But it doesn't really matter. We can now come in with the Buzzwole. I'm seeing already that they are running Weather Ball, not Icy Wind, so I'm going to shield this up. They can't debuff my attack, and then I will come out with a decent amount of energy. So let's see what the opponent wants to do here. They are going to come in with Vigoroth, sorry, so we're going to go straight for the lunge. This will be debuffing their attack. Lunge is going to be shielded by the opponent. They're going to swap, clear the debuff, and then we're going to swap into our Shadow Luxray once again, making a catch as the opponent goes for another lunge, one-shotting the Luxray, but it doesn't matter. At this point, I will be able to make it to back-to-back superpowers before the Vigoroth can make it to back-to-back Body Slams, so we safely shield up the Body Slam. We're at the back-to-back moves here, so going for superpower number 1, grabbing the final shield and superpower number 2, despite debuffing our attack, will obviously still take out the Vigoroth, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to the opponent there. Into next game we see Shadow Luxray into another Altaria. So just going to stay in this matchup. We've seen already I do like to bait in this matchup. Typically not a beta, but I think this is a safe play. If we go straight Wild Charge and they shield, it's basically just game over. So the opponent does correctly call that. We're then just going to go for a second Psychic Fangs, as at this point we have put them into range where this is going to threaten to KO. So now we're going to swap into Heracross. I will just barely outpace them to the next charge move here, but unfortunately I don't think I can get the full counter farm down. So we go for the Rock Blast just before they make it to Sky Attack number 2. The opponent actually shields that to get off the Sky Attack. So at this point I will just let the Heracross go down. Hopefully this does mean that Buzzwole will be strong up against their backline, as they do shield the Altaria at very low health. But here we come in with the Buzzwole, get the counter farm down. They come in with a Charger Bug, and we are going to fire off the lunge, throwing on alignment here, which I typically don't do, but I realize they're probably just going to throw a charge move straight away. So we do correctly throw there, and now we're going to shield up. It's just an X-Scissor, unfortunately, but what that does mean is I can live the next charge move, so gonna let it go through here, as this is just going to be another X-Scissor. They didn't farm to the discharge. I'm not going to be able to get the full counter farm down, so I swap into my Shadow Luxray. A bit questionable because once again, Buzzwole is very low here. They come in with a Quagsire, so we do at least single resist the Mud Shot damage. We go for the lunge first, not wanting to debuff my attack, but superpower will be dealing more damage. But unfortunately, just barely not enough damage there. One more damage, I think, and we could have taken out the Quagsire. And then, of course, one 2-turn move up against a 4-turn move, we would have been able to counter, farm down the Charger Bug, and take that game. But GG's to the opponent there. Into the next game, we see Shadow Swampert in the lead. They swap into Talonflame, and I'm so slow to react there. If we got off the rock side, honestly, either grab a shield or deal huge damage there, put them into farm down range for my Shadow Luxray. But unfortunately, we didn't, and now things aren't looking too good for us. I am, of course, going to shield this up here. I should be able to go for the Spark Farm down. We do get the Spark Farm down, and we are close to the next charge move, so we're going to go for the Wild Charge and Shadow on Shadow, despite being resisted. Wild Charge takes out the Shadow Swampert, but they've got Decidueye in the back, and this isn't great for us. Now, the opponent is going to go for a Spirit Shackle, so I'm going to let that go through. Probably should have shielded the first move, but they debuffed my defense, so it doesn't really make a difference here, as of course debuffing their attack is basically going to cancel out that debuff. But we're going to, of course, shield the next charge move. Lunge is going to be neutral damage here, but you can see already these counters really not doing much damage at all, and we are now in range where they can just go for a full resisted Leafage farm down, and they will come out with near a charge move loaded. We're not quite able to get the Spark farm down, and the opponent will be taking me out with a Spirit Shackle, and unfortunately we do lose that game. But GG's to the opponent there. Into next game, another Talonflame, this time in the lead. So just going to stay in with the Shadow Luxray, and I will go for that Psychic Fangs here. Once again baiting, but if I do go and full send the Wild Charge and the opponent shields, honestly, they can just go and fully fast move farm me down. So I kind of need to bait there. Luckily, we do grab a shield, and now we can go for the Spark farm down. They're going to come in with a Ferrothorn, so I'm able to bank a Wild Charge, then swap into my Heracross, and this is looking like it's game over. Once again, we are going to go and fire off the close combat on the CMP tie. The opponent no shields, so I can just safely let the Heracross go down. We are going to see Sky Attack easily takes out the Heracross. We come in with the Buzzwole, get an energy advantage up against the Ferrothorn, and they didn't even farm to a Flash Cannon, so I will just let this go through. It's just a Power Whip, that is resisted damage. It does some decent damage there because of course you can see my Buzzwole IVs aren't great. I think this is traded, but Superpower will be grabbing the final shield from the opponent, and we make it to Superpower number 2. And of course, this will be taking out the Ferrothorn, and I'm able to take that game. So GG to the opponent there. Into the next game, we see Luxray into another Talonflame. So we are once again going to stay in this lead matchup, and so is the opponent. We are going to fire off these Psychic Fangs straight away here. Well, not straight away, but throwing just before they make it to the charge move, and the opponent actually calls the bait there, which is really unfortunate because, of course, I can't really shield this up here. Don't really want to shield in a good matchup. So hoping that is the only flying type on their team, but unfortunately, they've got a Mantine in the back, and my only win condition here is landing a Rock Blast, but even then, we've seen already up against Altaria, Rock Blast doesn't even do 50% of their health, so up against Mantine, which is similarly very bulky, this isn't great, and the opponent is actually just going to commit to a full Wing Attack farm down. We go for Rock Blast number 2, grabbing the final shield. We're going to swap into our Buzzwole, and they're already at back-to-back Aerial Aces, so literally no point in shielding here. Aerial Ace takes out the Buzzwole, and this is definitely game over. If I either went and shielded up my Luxray there, maybe we could have done okay, but I don't know there. GG's to that opponent. Into the next battle, we see Tentacruel in the lead. So another great lead for the Shadow Luxray. The opponent's going to safe swap into Whiscash, so we will respond with our Buzzwole. And I will be shielding the first charge move here, just because Scald is going to do quite a lot of damage here. I'm going to go straight for a lunge, so of course, I'm going to debuff their attack. But of course, they also debuff me with the Scald. And now, at this point, I can afford to let the next move go through. The opponent is once again going to go for the Scald, and once again they do get the attack drop. I'm thinking at this point Lunge probably won't KO, so I full send the Superpower, and Superpower will be taking out the Whiscash. And let's see what the opponent wants to do. They're going to come in with a Gust Pidgeot, so they take me out in just one fast move. Of course, we cannot come in with our Heracross. We're going straight for the Psychic Fangs here. And the Psychic Fangs will be grabbing the final shield, and then I make a swap into my Heracross. Honestly, very questionable play there, catching the double super effective Feather Dance. They get the Gust farm down, but I will be able to go for a full Spark farm down. They come back in with the Tentacruel. Wild Charge probably does one shot from full health there, but just to make sure I over farm, we go for the Wild Charge, taking out the Tentacruel, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to the opponent there. Into next game, we see Skarmory in the lead, so another great lead for the Shadow Luxray. These battles aren't in order, by the way, so it wasn't just a lot of bad leads and then a lot of good leads. But into the battle here, we're going to see the opponent safe swaps into a Bombersnow. Of course, we've got two pretty good responses. Going to come in with my Buzzwole. We are going to go for that lunge straight away, as they did have quite a significant energy advantage. So we're going to go for the lunge, grabbing a shield from the opponent. So at this point, I'm definitely also going to shield here. I will be able to go for the counter farm down. And if they come back in with the Skarmory, I'm also going to be able to make it to a Superpower. So let's see if that's what the opponent wants to do here. They are going to come back in with the Skarmory, so we go for the Superpower straight away. And if the opponent doesn't shield, Superpower will be taking them out from this range, and they've got a Steelix in the back. So that is of course why they shielded on their Bombersnow. They wanted to fight for switch advantage, but unfortunately for them, this isn't. They didn't get switch advantage, and we can safely no shield a Psychic Fangs there. Gonna overfarm, go for a Rock Blast bait, and then I will actually swap into my Luxray with just the counter damage. We have got them very low, so I'm going to go straight for the Psychic Fangs here. Psychic Fangs is going to deal some decent damage considering it is resisted, and I'm actually able to double resisted Spark, farm down the Steelix, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to the opponent there. Into next game, we see Clodsire in the lead, which isn't ideal. Honestly, I probably just should play out the one shield scenario. You can see Psychic Fangs here, not going to deal too much damage, but the next one would deal a lot more damage, as of course we debuff their defense. But instead, we swap into our Heracross immediately. We bait out Altaria, but that doesn't really help us that much because they've still got a very healthy and also a lot of energy on their Clodsire. So not great. We're going to go for back-to-back Rock Blast. They actually live both of them, and they still get off a charge move. So at this point, I will let this move go through. Sky Attack will be taking us out. We're now going to come back in with the Shadow Luxray and hoping that I can make it to another Psychic Fangs before they make it to back-to-back charge moves. So we'll be shielding this up. We need the damage from the Psychic Fangs, or at least debuff their defense, and we do just barely get there. Looks like a CMP tie. Psychic Fangs is going to be shielded by the opponent, but hopefully with that defense drop, we can take them out now with a Buzzwole. They go for the Stone Edge, taking us out, but they've got a Shadow Toxicroak in the back, and this isn't great for us. Of course, we can live a Mud Bomb. They didn't even farm to the Shadow Ball there, so we let it go through. We're now now going to overfarm here. We have to go for Superpower because unfortunately Lunge is double resisted, but Superpower will now debuff my defense and my attack, meaning it's going to be even harder to get rid of the Clodsire. We're now going to fire off a Lunge here, and Lunge, I need to grab the shield because Lunge doesn't deal as much damage as the Superpower, but now we're going to shield this up. I am resisting these mud shots, so I'm going to overfarm as much as possible, throw as late as possible here with the Superpower, but we are debuffed. I just don't think this is enough damage to take out the Clodsire. Unfortunately, it isn't enough damage to take them out there, and we do lose that game. But GG's to the opponent there. Into next game, another Vigoroth in the lead. So we're going to say swap into our Heracross, and we're met with a Skarmory. Now this actually isn't that bad of a matchup. Going to go for the close combat, throwing on the CMP tie, and the opponent is going to shield, respect the damage from the close combat. At this point, I'm going to no shield, they go for a Sky Attack, taking us out of course, and now I'm going to come in with my Shadow Luxray, and I'm going to commit to a full Spark farm down, and if the opponent doesn't farm up to a potential Brave Bird, I'm just going to no shield this. Sky Attack is resisted, it still does a decent amount of damage there, but we come out with a Wild Charge loaded, so I'm sending it straight away into the Vigoroth. Wild Charge is going to be shielded, grabbing the final shield from the opponent, and now we can come in with our Buzzwole, safely shield up the first charge move coming from the Vigoroth, and they've got a Shadow Venusaur in the back, so things are looking good. We can go straight for the Lunge. This is going to debuff their attack, but it also does a decent amount of damage there, puts them into counter farm down range. They're not making it to back-to-back charge moves here, so they go for the Frenzy Plant, hoping to make it to a second move, but they don't get there, and we make it to the Superpower. And of course, this is going to hit for super effective damage, taking out the Vigoroth, and I'm able to take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. And if you want to take your support even further, you can now become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has already become a channel member. Your support is greatly appreciated, and with that being said, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.